Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Have you ever dreamed of that perfect day, the moment you slip into a wedding dress or put on a suit and walk hand in hand with the one you love into a picture of happiness Uri has? In his dream, he saw Tieu glowing in a white gown, radiant and breathtaking, while he stood proudly by her side as the groom he had always longed to be. The sound of the camera clicked, freezing their smiles in time, smiles that felt like a promise of forever. Will that dream ever become reality? Could it be that tonight's simple country meal, shared in love and warmth, is the very first step toward a love strong enough to last a lifetime? Let's find out together right now. The morning sun rose gently over the countryside, spilling golden light across the yard. The quiet of dawn soon gave way to a kind of music that only village life can create, simple, lively, and pure. Tieu stepped into the yard with a wicker basket full of grain tucked in her arms. With a soft, familiar call, she tossed handfuls of feed across the ground. At once the little flock came alive. Chicks scurried toward her, their tiny wings fluttering as they chirped excitedly. Ducks waddled quickly from the pond, splashing their way to the feast. The yard transformed into a scene of cheerful chaos, every sound blending into a melody of rural peace. Tieu laughed under her breath, her movements unhurried, her face softened by the quiet joy of this simple routine. Not far away, Uri had rolled up his pant legs and waded into the shallow edge of the pond. The water was cool against his skin, sparkling under the morning sun. His calloused hands moved carefully through the mud and reeds, searching for snails and crabs hidden beneath. With practiced ease, he pulled them free and dropped them into a worn bamboo basket at his side. It was tedious work, the kind of labor that demanded patience. But Uri didn't mind. There was something grounding in the rhythm of it, something that reminded him of why this place mattered. Every so often, though, his attention drifted. He would glance up from the water, his eyes finding Tieu in the yard. She moved with such ease, such natural grace, that even the simple act of feeding chickens looked like poetry. Uri paused, watching her, as if time itself slowed. In that look was everything gratitude, tenderness, and the kind of quiet devotion that doesn't need words. It was an ordinary morning in every sense, yet to Uri, it felt like something extraordinary. Because sometimes happiness doesn't arrive with grand gestures. It appears in the smallest things, the sound of chickens in the yard, the cool water of a pond, and the warmth of a single glance. By midday, the little kitchen was alive with movement. Smoke curled upward from the clay stove, drifting lazily toward the rafters, while the fire below crackled with steady heat. Tieu moved quickly, her hands never still. She stirred a pot of greens, checked the fish simmering in a pan, and leaned over to taste the broth, adjusting the seasoning with a careful touch. The air was thick with the fragrance of fresh herbs, the savory scent of river fish, and the rustic aroma of wood smoke. Together, they blended into something more than just cooking. It was the smell of home. Beside her, Uri crouched low, gathering sticks of firewood and gently coaxing the flames to life. He fed the fire with patience, his rough hands blackened with soot. To him, it didn't matter how dirty the work was. What mattered was keeping the fire strong enough to cook the meal she had so lovingly prepared. The rhythm between them was quiet, natural, two people moving in harmony, each action complementing the other. When the dishes were finally ready, Tieu placed them carefully on a low wooden table. Golden fried fish, stir-fried greens glistening with garlic, and a simple bowl of rice. Steam rose from each plate, carrying with it the comfort of tradition. She sat down beside Uri, her expression softening. Picking up her chopsticks, she gently placed a piece of fish into his bowl. "You've worked hard this morning," she said with a small smile. "Eat plenty." Yuri looked at her, and for a moment his smile mirrored hers. But his eyes drifted somewhere else. Beyond the walls of the kitchen, beyond the farm, to a place deep within his own heart. He lifted the food to his mouth, but it wasn't hunger that moved him, it was gratitude. Finally, in a voice low and steady, he whispered, "With you by my side, no matter how hard the work is, it never feels heavy." And for Tieu, each time she saw him smile, each time she placed food into his bowl, she felt it too. Happiness didn't need grandeur. Sometimes it lived in the steam of a small meal, in the warmth of a fire, and in the presence of someone who made even the hardest days feel easy. The world around Uri seemed to blur, the familiar sounds of the farm fading into silence. His heart slowed, his breath caught, and suddenly he was no longer standing in a smoky little kitchen. Instead, he found himself inside a dream, one so vivid it felt like reality. He was dressed in a tailored suit, sharp and elegant, the kind of suit a man wears on the most important day of his life. And across from him stood Tieu. She was radiant, glowing in a wedding gown of pure white. The fabric caught the light of the late afternoon sun, shimmering as though woven with strands of gold. Her hair fell gently around her shoulders, her eyes bright with joy. For a moment, Uri could only stare, his chest tightening with the overwhelming thought, "This is the woman I've waited for." Hand in hand, they stepped forward into a warm, sunlit studio. The air felt golden thick with the kind of light that softens everything it touches. Their smiles, genuine, unguarded, unstoppable, lit up the room. Each step they took together was steady, filled with the promise of forever. And then came the click of the camera. Snap, snap. The sound echoed, freezing their joy in time. Every photo captured not just an image, but a piece of the love they had fought so hard to keep alive. Uri reached up, brushing back a strand of hair that had fallen across Tieu's face. His voice was quiet but steady, filled with emotion he could barely contain. "Today," he whispered, "you're truly my bride." Tieu's lips curved into a smile, soft and luminous. She leaned into him, resting her head gently against his shoulder. Her voice, tender and sure, floated into the golden air. "And we'll hold on to this moment forever, won't we?" The photos kept clicking, each one capturing a love that felt eternal. Uri's arm tightened around her, as if by sheer will he could anchor her to this moment, this perfect vision. And deep inside he prayed, if only life could stay like this. If only time could freeze right here with us smiling in the sunlight. But just as quickly as it had come, the dream dissolved. The golden light, the sound of the camera, the vision of Tieu in white, all of it slipped away like mist. Uri blinked, startled, and found himself once again sitting at their modest table. In front of him, steam curled upward from a simple meal, the aroma of fresh herbs and warm rice filling the air. Reality returned, familiar yet grounding. Beside him, Tieu tilted her head, studying his distant gaze. She reached out gently, touching his arm. "Uri," she asked softly, a hint of surprise in her voice. "Why are you sitting there so lost in thought?" Uri turned toward her, a small smile tugging at his lips. For a moment, he didn't answer. He simply let his eyes meet hers, deep, steady, full of quiet devotion. Then, with a calm voice that carried more weight than the words themselves, he said, "It's nothing. I just feel lucky. Lucky to have you here with me." Tieu blinked, caught off guard by the sincerity in his tone. Her lips curved into a faint smile, but it was the way his eyes lingered on hers that spoke the loudest. In that look was something unspoken, a promise, a hope, a faith that their love could outlast every storm. Uri didn't tell her about the dream, about the vision of her in a wedding dress and the forever he longed for. He kept it tucked in his heart where it burned like a secret flame. But as he sat there watching her across the table, he knew one thing for certain: one day somehow, that dream would no longer be just a dream.
Xin chào các bạn, chào mừng các bạn đã quay trở lại kênh của mình. Sáng hôm nay, sân vườn bỗng rộn ràng. Tử Tiêu ôm rổ thóc trong tay, vừa tung vừa nắm nhỏ cho đàn gà ăn. Ngoài bờ ao, Uri sắn quần, cẩn mẫn mò cua bắt ốc. Và nước mắt lạnh lấp lánh phản chiếu ánh mặt trời. Còn đôi tay của anh thì khéo léo nhặt từng con ốc, bỏ vào chiếc giỏ tre. Đến trưa, gian bếp nhỏ tỏa khói nghi ngút. Tử Tiêu thì tất bật nấu nướng, còn Uri ngồi nhóm lửa. Trên mâm cơm, Tử Tiêu ân cần gắp cho Uri thức ăn và nói: anh ăn nhiều vào, sáng nay anh vất vả rồi. Uri mỉm cười: có em bên cạnh, mệt nhọc thế nào anh cũng thấy nhẹ nhõm. Khoảnh khắc ấy, cảnh vật xung quanh mờ dần đi. Trong mộng tưởng, Uri bỗng thấy mình khoác bộ vest, còn Tử Tiêu rạng rỡ trong chiếc váy cưới. Họ tay trong tay, nụ cười chăn chứa hạnh phúc. Tiếng của máy ảnh vang lên, lưu giữ khoảnh khắc đẹp của họ. Uri khẽ chỉnh mái tóc của Tử Tiêu và thì thầm: hôm nay em thật sự là cô dâu của anh rồi. Tử Tiêu mỉm cười, tựa đầu vào vai anh. Thế nhưng giấc mơ tan biến. Uri giật mình trở về với mâm cơm. Tử Tiêu khẽ lay anh, ánh mắt ngạc nhiên: anh sao thế, ngồi ngẩn ngơ vậy? Anh mỉm cười, nhìn cô: không có gì, chỉ thấy may mắn vì có em ở đây. Trong ánh nhìn ấy lấp lánh niềm tin rằng một ngày nào đó giấc mơ kia sẽ thành hiện thực.